What if the so-called missing years of Jesus, the enigmatic period between his childhood and the beginning of his ministry, were never truly lost? What if this period had been meticulously preserved in the African highlands, safeguarded in ancient texts, composed in a language predating Latin, concealed not by history but by the boundaries of Western interpretation? This is more than history. It is a sacred remembrance maintained by one of the oldest Christian communities on earth. Unaffected by colonial influence and transmitted through generations of faithful practice, Ethiopia may possess the key to a neglected chapter in Jesus' life. Comment 1 if you've never heard about Ethiopia's role in early Christianity. Comment 2 if you already knew there was more to Jesus' story than what's in the Western Bible. Long before he was known to the world as the Messiah, before the Jordan baptism and the Sermon on the Mount, there existed a divine child gifted with power and wisdom beyond human grasp. His story, according to Ethiopian tradition, has been preserved. The New Testament's canonical Gospels feature a conspicuous gap in Jesus' life, spanning the years from age 12 to 30. The last recorded event from Jesus' youth appears in Luke 2:41 to 52, where he amazes the elders in the Jerusalem temple with his wisdom during the Passover. Following this account, nearly 20 years of Jesus' life go undocumented, a stretch often referred to as his silent or hidden years. The Bible does not record details about Jesus' teenage years, young adulthood, or the events that preceded his public ministry. This absence has led to centuries of speculation and the creation of various texts aiming to reconstruct that lost narrative. Although the canonical scriptures are silent on the matter, various apocryphal and historical documents, often omitted from Orthodox Christianity, attempt to fill in this elusive chapter. One particularly compelling source is the Ethiopian Bible. Regarded by numerous scholars as the most ancient, complete biblical canon, it remains central to the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church and contains stories, spiritual insights, and miraculous accounts covering the undocumented years of Jesus. Unlike many Christian traditions introduced through colonization, Ethiopia's adoption of Christianity predates much of Western religious history, offering its scriptures a distinct and possibly more ancient viewpoint. Ethiopia is uniquely significant in religious history not only for its spiritual heritage, but also for its exceptional status as an African country that withstood colonization. This historical autonomy enabled Ethiopia to safeguard its ancient manuscripts, religious customs, and artifacts from European imperial censorship and disruption. The Ethiopian Bible, composed in the ancient Ge'ez script, includes 88 books, significantly more than the 66 found in the commonly used King James Version. Comment 1 if you believe lost or excluded scriptures still hold truth. Comment 2 if you're curious to explore what else the Ethiopian canon reveals. These extra texts feature apocryphal writings, expanded versions of Old Testament books, and rich narratives absent from mainstream Christian scriptures. In contrast to many Christian communities that embrace the faith through missionary work, Ethiopia's Christian heritage has been native since at least the 4th century AD, if not earlier. Thanks to its unbroken tradition and freedom from colonization, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church has remained one of the world's oldest and most preserved Christian institutions. Ethiopia's religious manuscripts and oral narratives have stayed largely unchanged for over 1,600 years, offering an essential lens into how early Christians might have perceived Jesus' life and teachings, particularly during the so-called hidden years. Ethiopia, often enveloped in mystery, is renowned not only for its sacred texts, but also for the claim that it possesses the Ark of the Covenant. Although mainstream archaeology has yet to verify the Ark's existence or whereabouts, Ethiopian tradition firmly maintains that it is kept in the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion in Axum. This belief originates from the Kebra Nagast, an ancient Ethiopian manuscript that directly connects Ethiopia to biblical Israel. The Kebra Nagast recounts that Menelik the son of King Solomon, and the Queen of Sheba transported the Ark to Ethiopia. Though that story is a topic in itself, it highlights Ethiopia's deep-rooted connection to biblical narratives. Such historical and spiritual ties have reinforced the legitimacy of Ethiopia's broader biblical canon, particularly within its own tradition. Regarding Jesus' hidden years, the Ethiopian Bible offers more than mere religious insight. It reflects a profound cultural legacy. The notion that Jesus' early life is recorded in this ancient scripture is not simple conjecture. It stems from an unbroken tradition upheld in monasteries and oral lore for generations. The Ethiopic Bible encompasses works that Western Christianity has discarded, forgotten, or labeled apocryphal, such as the Book of Enoch, the Ascension of Isaiah, and Infancy Gospels that offer insights into Jesus' early development. For instance, the Book of Enoch was once commonly referenced in early Christian texts, even by figures like Tertullian, but was later excluded from the Western biblical canon by ecclesiastical councils. In contrast, Ethiopia still regards it as sacred scripture, offering not only eschatological insights but also revelations about the divine origins and childhood of Jesus. Whereas the King James Bible, produced in 1611 under King James III by 47 scholars with political and religious agendas, reflects a curated canon. Ethiopia's scriptural tradition developed more organically and dates back much further. This canon incorporates oral histories and sacred writings that had been in circulation since the early centuries following Christ's death. This preservation underscores that numerous stories now deemed apocryphal or forgotten were once viewed as authentic and holy in Ethiopia, long before Western authorities omitted them from the formal biblical canon. There is a common misconception that Christianity in Africa began with European colonizers, yet Ethiopia's Christian heritage is nearly as ancient as Christianity itself. Historical documents reveal that Ethiopia embraced Christianity as a state religion in the 4th century, well before it was adopted by the Roman Empire. This assertion is backed by historical figures such as Cosmas Indicopleustis, a 6th century monk and traveler who chronicled Christian customs in ancient Axum. His writings depict a flourishing Christian society featuring established churches, theological discourse, and sanctuaries for persecuted Christians from abroad. These historical details position Ethiopia not merely as a recipient of Christianity, but as one of its earliest nurseries. Ethiopian believers were not recent converts. They were originators and custodians of early Christian theology and spiritual tradition. The continued existence of writings portraying Jesus' youth as divinely empowered, wise, and miraculous reflects Ethiopia's deeply established theological heritage. It further highlights that Western Christianity's portrayal of Jesus is lacking without the inclusion of these ancient alternative sources. In 2010, researchers uncovered an illustrated gospel written in Ge'ez, an ancient South Semitic language still employed in Ethiopian religious services. The manuscript was located in a secluded monastery situated atop a mountain isolated from modern influence. This find lent additional support to the belief that Ethiopia has maintained a genuine early Christian tradition. The gospel features vivid symbolic illustrations and textual sections not present in Western Bibles, shedding light on early conceptions of Jesus' life, particularly his youth. In contrast to the more restrained accounts in the Synoptic Gospels, these Ge'ez writings portray Jesus as actively involved in his divine calling from early childhood. They reveal a messianic awareness in Jesus that, according to Western tradition, only emerges at his baptism. These images assist scholars in understanding that Ethiopian Christians viewed Christ not merely as a teacher and redeemer, but as an eternal figure whose divine power was apparent from birth. Some of the most captivating writings maintained in Ethiopia are the Infancy Gospels, which recount miraculous incidents from Jesus' childhood. A notable tale describes Jesus shaping birds out of clay and breathing life into them, symbolizing divine creativity. Though found in other apocryphal works, such as the Infancy Gospel of Thomas, the story's preservation and veneration in Ethiopian Christianity imply it was regarded as a genuine demonstration of Jesus' divine essence from an early age. These narratives, largely excluded from Western Bibles, were not dismissed as myth in Ethiopia. They formed a component of both the oral and written traditions of a faithful community convinced that Jesus' divine abilities did not begin at age 30, but were evident from his youth. Stories such as healing injured laborers like Joseph the carpenter and even raising the dead enhance the spiritual image of Jesus, offering deeper insight into how his earthly mission may have evolved privately before becoming public. Comment 1 if you believe Jesus' divine nature was visible even in childhood. Comment 2 if you've always wondered what those missing years were really like. Among the most striking narratives in Ethiopian tradition are those where Jesus demonstrates authority over life and death. One account recounts a child who angered Jesus and was killed only to be revived later through Jesus' compassion. These stories portray not only a divine child, but also a multifaceted, potent individual grappling with human emotions through supernatural means. Though not found in standard Bibles, these tales provide a vivid mosaic of early Christian beliefs and imaginative views concerning Jesus' nature. They emphasize the awe-enigma and divine strength ascribed to Jesus, even in childhood elements largely missing from the more historically oriented Synoptic Gospels. These narratives allow Ethiopian Christianity to maintain a comprehensive understanding of Jesus as entirely human and entirely divine, from birth to resurrection. Whereas the Western Church concentrates primarily on Jesus' public ministry, his baptism, miracles, teachings, crucifixion, and resurrection, the Ethiopian tradition encourages reflection on the holiness of his full life journey, including the years left unrecorded in the Bible. This expanded perspective deepens our comprehension of Jesus by linking his spiritual message with personal experience and historical cultural context. In conclusion, the silent period in Jesus' life remains an intriguing enigma. Yet through Ethiopia's preserved scriptures and enduring traditions, we can observe a consistent thread of belief that reveres his full existence, his youth wisdom, and sacred purpose. It urges us to broaden our viewpoint beyond the official biblical texts and to value the various ways in which faith and history are interwoven among different cultures. Thank you for being part of this exploration into Jesus' hidden years. To further discover Ethiopia's profound biblical legacy and its role in Christian history, subscribe and keep following this journey.